Welcome, everyone. In today's seat, we have a special guest, and I want to say welcome to our empowered community. I'm super excited for this episode that I'm having for today. As you can see on the title, on the thumbnail, it says from bedside to boss, something that I'm passionate about. I love it to see when our nurses step out from the bedside to the boss. If you're listening right now, please drop in the comment section where you're from, where you're tuning in from, and what you'd like to see also in this episode. If you're listening and you're ready to get information that's going to help you to transition from a bedside nurse to a boss, type yes in the chat. So in today's seat, we have my special guest, Claudia Garcia. How are you, Claudia?
I'm great. So excited to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you for coming. We are super excited for you to be here. I'm super excited in terms of you coming to speak to our nurses and speaking about moving from a bedside to a boss. Now, I did have a little overview of what you do, but you can add, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. But we have Claudia Garcia, who is here with us today. She's a helping healthcare consultant and private practice owners who build profitable businesses with smart growth. She's a staffing guru, marketing guru, and also she does specialize in professional branding and LinkedIn visibility. I think I
Yeah,
got all of it.
that's a hand, or what we should say, a mouthful and a handful, right? Yeah. So my name is Claudia Garcia. I'm the founder and CEO of Royalty Medical Solutions. We've been in business for almost 2 decades. My story begins at working in a clinic and for a big healthcare organization, and being underappreciated, underpaid, undervalued, in the whole 9 yard. And I decided to take what I had learned on the job and start my very own business. And so I actually asked that boss to be my first client, and he said yes, because I was doing a good job. And so I had my first client, and it's been so fun since then. And so I just encourage anybody that is kind of feeling that tug that it's time to go into something for yourself, that you learn exactly what you can do and how to do it, and then go for it. I always say take your current employer with you as if your first client, so you never start a business on zero. But that's a little bit about my backstory.
Yes, I'm super happy that you gave that story too. I love the fact where you spoke that you were undervalued, overworked. And I
Yeah.
think I can speak for myself and as nurses, that's what many of us feel, undervalued, overworked. And it's something that was important for me that stuck out in what you said a while ago, that you saw that you were undervalued, overworked, and you decided to go into business.
Mhm.
Before we jump into the questions, I know this was not one of our questions. What is it that you had apart from undervalued, overworked? Do you feel like it was a calling, or there's something that came over you, or it was your purpose that was ignited?
Yeah, so I already was an entrepreneur prior to this job. So I
Mm-hmm.
had flipped houses with my husband. I had sold Avon back in the day. I don't know if y'all remember Avon.
Yeah.
I had an e-commerce store, so I would flip my kids' designer clothes and shop for designer clothes and flip it so I could stay home with my little ones. I had that serial entrepreneur kind of thing happening already. So when I took this job in healthcare, I actually fell into healthcare. I was raised by a nurse. So my
Mm-hmm.
mom's a nurse, and my mother-in-law is an ICU nurse still till this day. And they wanted me to go into healthcare, but I actually didn't choose healthcare. I fell into healthcare. After my husband was in a really bad accident, a friend of mine said, instead of stressing out, just come and work for me. You can have a steady paycheck. And I thought, well, because what we were going through, it sounded like maybe this was a season where I could take a job and have a reliable paycheck and be present for my family. And so I did that, and I just learned everything about the business. As soon as I got there, I was like, how do you make money? How do we make it profitable? And how can I help you grow? So I learned how to do all that. And then with the blessing of that that boss, I started my own healthcare marketing company. So it
Mhm.
started with marketing. And later, one of the biggest asks in this was Southern California was that the doctors needed to expand by joining medical networks. And
Mhm.
so I hired a team. I had, I think, 5 to 7 employees, and they were all doing contracting and getting the doctors into medical networks. And I think we credentialed and contracted hundreds of physicians in
Wow.
Southern California. So that was also part of the growth strategy with my
Mhm.
providers. So it wasn't just marketing, but it was credentialing and contracting. And then the more that the providers trusted me, the more they asked for things. And the biggest thing that they asked for were good people. So
Mhm.
staffing came into play about 7 years ago. And so yeah, so it just progressed that way. So and it wasn't part of the plan. I would say that being an entrepreneur was always part of the plan. I do believe that I was called to that,
Yeah.
but I didn't have, like I said, it wasn't healthcare that I had I had seen. It just, and I fell in love with it.
Mhm.
The ability to touch a patient's life, even though I wasn't a nurse or a doctor,
Right.
just I just really felt real passionate about that once I figured out how I can have an impact as an administrator. Mhm.
Yes. But guys, I always say to Claudia that I felt that she is a nurse. With your mom, your mother-in-law, you said being a nurse. I just think the first time I met you, I thought you were a nurse. But I think having those persons around you, I think
Yeah.
helped to propel you in that area. But
Yeah.
one thing I must say, though, I like that you took a risk and you launched your business. There's a question that I actually wanted to go into is that did you have any skills that you think helped you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I think the biggest skill is that you have to be you have to be super confident, and you also have to be courageous in and being okay to fail. Someone described it as an entrepreneur is almost like stupid enough to think that they can make it. You know what I mean? Like you have this belief in you while maybe nobody else does. You have this belief that you can do big things in the marketplace.
Hmm.
Also, I think it did require the fact that I wanted to help people, right?
Right.
So it went beyond the money and the cash flow. All that was great, but there were two main things that I wanted when I started my business. Number one was freedom for my family, and that since the beginning, that's why I had so many different businesses, was being available for the kids at home. And then also being able to serve in the capacity that I felt was best for my personality, my and my skill set, and the gifts and talents that God put inside of me. So oftentimes when you're in a job, you're not always able to do that. Hopefully you can find one that that allows you to do that. But for me, entrepreneurship was the route for me to truly use those gifts and talents.
Okay, so we have Think Nursing on the line right now, and I said to drop where you're tuning in from. So she is in from Texas, but she said
Oh,
she's a Yadi Jamaican, so she's also Jamaican
yay.
and a nurse. And
Okay,
the
I'm
nurse,
in Texas. So
oh,
hi. Yeah,
yes. So,
nice.
and she's also, I think, nurse practitioner too.
Oh,
So,
okay.
even though you're not a nurse, I know that you speak a lot about nurses and like the impact they have. And with myself being a nurse, this is something that I think that is needed in the area that we're not taught entrepreneurship. Many of
Mhm.
us we just go into it whether it's purpose or just taking a risk. We train for 4 years, and many of us complain of being undervalued, overworked. But I do believe the training that we receive, that we have the skills there, we just have to find them and know how to turn them into profit. So, with your experience seeing nurses, whether online or working with them, what are some skills that you think they can use in order to become entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I'll just use my mom and my mother-in-law as an example because they both actually had businesses while being nurses. My mother-in-law now does private duty nursing, so that allows her to work PRN because she doesn't want to retire. And then
Mhm.
she does private duty nurse for locals in Austin, and she really enjoys that. So
Mhm.
you are equipped, you have the skill set, and you have the training. Now it's just about finding the right business for your lifestyle. I always say choose the business that fits your lifestyle.
Mhm.
Don't just choose the business that's trendy or that everyone's hyping up or everyone's talking about, but rather really look at your lifestyle and what your goals are for family, and then determine what type of business will work best with your lifestyle. um,
Right.
but you mentioned that what does a nurse really need besides her skill set and her training? Exposure. So
Mhm.
what you really need is exposure to business. I,
True.
I do believe that anyone can be an entrepreneur. Some people say you're born an entrepreneur. And I think that sure, we're born with certain traits that maybe will get us there faster. But I do believe that entrepreneurship is something that you learn as you're exposed to it, and also being exposed to the right type of business, right? Because if you expose me to maybe like an art studio, I may not be wild and crazy
Mhm.
about it. I may be able to, to love the art, but that's not my calling. That's not my passion. So you probably aren't going to move me into being an art studio owner. So it's
Yeah.
about being exposed to the right type of business. So if
Mhm.
you're a nurse right now and you're like, what type of business should I start? I think it's really important to get exposed to different types of entrepreneurs in healthcare and really talk to them. So things like this, where you join a podcast and you hear others talking about the business, that's
Mhm.
exposure.
Right.
Reading a book, that's exposure. Asking somebody if you could come work for them for a certain season just to learn the
Mhm.
business, that's exposure. Hiring a coach or a mentor, that's exposure. So how do we really get there? We need to expose ourselves to the right things.
Right. And with, I like that you touched on exposure. Exposure also means attending conferences, not just
Yes.
limited to nurses, industry events, whether if you want to go into home health, any industry events that are
Yeah.
happening in your area,
Yeah.
these are where the bosses are normally are. And
Mhm.
you shouldn't have any intimidation or anything, because you can just literally just sit down and you never know who you're speaking with. I
Yeah.
remember that I went to a conference and I sat at a table, introduced myself to the ladies. I didn't know who they were. And when I was sitting there, I was talking to a lady who was a big podcaster on YouTube. And then another one was a nursing administrator. And then she just
Mhm.
said, take my card. And as easy as that. And these are some ways I think nurses can launch themselves and get exposed, as you talked about. Now, with
Yeah.
exposure and all of this, once they get exposed, what other tips that would you give to them in terms of when they're ready to start a business? But before that, I'd like to ask you, do you think there is a shift right now with a lot of nurses becoming entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think there's just a shift in general. I think we're in a world that gives us exposure to
Mhm.
learn how to do these things. So we really have tools at our fingertips, which we may back in the day had to go searching for them, right? And so now there's just more access to learn how to do it and to learn how to do it faster. So yeah, I think there's a shift not just in nursing but in general. Those that
Mhm.
are called into entrepreneurship or really they're passionate about a specific thing or want that freedom, they're now able to do it because the tools are right at their fingertips, right?
Right. All right. So before we jump into tools, I want to ask you, when you're launching like a business or you're getting into business, do you think social media is important? And you're the guru when it comes to marketing. You know,
Yes
how
and no. Okay, so a lot of times we want to jump into social media before we have the right audience and the right product, or we think we're ready to start, showing up every day on social media, but we have no offer. So you can go on there and start building a brand as an expert before you roll out an offer. But if you're trying to make sales or get clients, you actually have to have a process before you spin your wheels on social media.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're just entertaining people, right? So
Right.
it depends on what you're trying to accomplish on social media. But I say lay the foundation of your business first and iron out your offer before you start your I guess, before you start working social media.
Right. So you're saying to make sure you have something to offer them and then you lay the foundation of what you're offering in terms of getting clients before starting.
Yeah. So unless you're doing something where you're branding yourself as a professional expert that later is planning on starting something, then you're building a brand, then you're going to go on social media and just share about your expertise, tell stories and all that. That's okay. But when
Mhm.
it comes to actually um, gaining revenue in your business and using social media, it's going to be very important that you have an actual offer that
Mhm.
people will can buy.
Right.
So social media is really big, right? YouTube, the best thing about YouTube is that you build trust.
Mhm.
Long form videos will build trust, and then people will join your programs because they now trust you. They see that you know your stuff, right?
Right.
But when it comes to like a TikTok or an Instagram, you're going really, really fast. You're doing short videos, and who you're attracting there are those people that are quick buyers. So if you
Mhm.
don't have anything quick for them to click on
Right.
or a funnel to take them through, then you're just entertaining people. So
Yeah.
it's really about knowing what is your objective when you go onto a platform.
Okay.
For me, healthcare, I chose LinkedIn because that's where all the healthcare organizations, the decision makers are, and so I'm able to connect with them. So that's my platform that I have chosen, and I encourage all healthcare professionals who start a business to be on LinkedIn. But choose one platform, but make sure that you have your offer ready to go if you are in fact trying to generate revenue at that time.
Right. All right. I like the fact you spoke about like choosing a platform in terms of healthcare workers. You mentioned that every single one of them should be on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
How, for a nurse that is listening right now, interested in starting a business, interested in professional branding, how can she start on LinkedIn in terms of marketing and leveraging herself?
Sure, it starts with a vision. What is the vision? Like what are you trying to accomplish with the brand and what you're going to share online? So let's just say you are a nurse, and I'm just going to use something real simple. So let's say you're an expert in labor and delivery. Okay.
Mhm.
And you have a very specific niche. You help maybe women that go into preterm labor, right? So you're going to be talking about this, and you're going to be known as the labor and delivery nurse that is an expert in preemie babies. And I don't know a lot about, just using an example, right?
Mhm.
So you can start gaining that reputation of being that expert, right? But then you want to also, when you're ready to roll out that program, you want to I don't know, 10 ways to you can help me out here because you're the nurse, but
Yeah.
10 ways to avoid an early term pregnancy,
Mhm.
5 ways to choose your hospital when you know
Mhm.
you're high risk, like whatever it is that you're teaching, have those tools available so that what was the question? I want to make sure I'm answering it correctly.
How to if they're building professional, if they want to build like a professional brand and if they want to market themselves on LinkedIn, how to do it. You're on the right
Yeah.
track.
Okay, I'm on the right track. So I would say start with one topic and speak to one person.
Mhm.
That will keep you from being confused. So it's really easy to confuse our audience. And I'm speaking from experience because I'm a consultant who has 3 services.
Mhm.
Therefore, I have to be really careful how I share online. Otherwise, people are like, well, does she do this? Does she do this? Or does she do that? Well, business strategies at the top, and then you have the marketing, right? Then you have the staffing. So they it can be really, really tough for you to show up as just one thing. So
Mhm.
it's really important to have that vision just mapped out, and talk about one thing and talk to one person. Who is that customer, that client, and that avatar?
Mhm. So many nurses or anybody that is watching me go on LinkedIn and see some persons on there who are the gurus, the experts with 10,000 followers, getting a lot of visibility. How does a nurse start her visibility?
Yeah. So you start with connecting with people, and you start with having conversation. So the most important thing on LinkedIn is not how many likes you get, how many impressions you get, or how many times you post. It's really about the conversations and the connections that you make.
Mhm.
So, LinkedIn has been my number one tool for about 6 years. I made multiple seven figures on LinkedIn before I ever posted a single post.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you want those contracts on LinkedIn, the magic is happening on the DMs, in the DMs.
Mhm.
Now there's a whole strategy behind it. So I don't want you to think you could go jump into someone's DM and say, "Hey, give me a contract." No, you have to build trust. You
Mhm.
have to give value. And I actually just started posting last year around November. And I made myself because I said, "Okay, I'm doing a lot of work on, in the DMs by
Mhm.
trying to get corporate contracts. Now I want them to start coming to me."
Right.
So that's when I decided to start posting and making sure I was visible in a different way.
Right.
So it's all different strategies. I always say that they're kind of like two different buckets when it comes to social media. There is the bucket of branding yourself and becoming visible, and then there's the sales bucket.
Right.
And we sort of need both. But if you skip one or the other, it gets a little hard. So you
Mhm.
have to know how to sell as well. So yeah, there's there's a whole strategy behind it. But I just want to encourage you that to not complicate it.
Mhm.
So I'm going to give you guys a real simple recipe. So number one, first write out the vision of what you want to do, and again, eliminate all the things you don't want to do. Okay, so that way we have a very simple business. Okay, so we'll just use me as an example. I wanted to market specialty providers so that they can get more referrals. That was it.
Mhm.
So I had one avatar, one client, and it was private practices that were specialists. Okay, that was it. And then I figured out which way does that person respond. Do they respond online? Do they respond on text? Do they respond at a conference? Are they coming through referrals? Find out how you can get to them the quickest. So even though you can still get them on social media, but which way is faster? Is it better for me to show up at a conference and introduce myself in person? Or am I going to take, the long route and really work social and all that? Again, there's tons of different ways to make it, but keep it real simple. So once you determine how you're going to get those clients, stick to that, master it, do well, and then jump into all the different other areas. So, because it could really be overwhelming. I mean, you turn on social media and one person says, do this, and then you look at the next post, it's like, don't do that. So yeah, keep it simple.
Mhm. All right. Thank you so much for that. That's really good. So you're saying that, write the vision down, know what you're offering, look at where your clients are too. That is very
Mhm,
important because I think LinkedIn for healthcare workers, that's where most of the clients are. In
mhm.
terms of social media, you have the millennials and the TikTokers. So you have to know what speaks to you and also what your brand is offering. Next to that, with social media, it comes with posting, it comes with, you don't have to post much as you said, but you
Mhm.
talked about tools. What tools can the or nurses use to help leverage themselves in terms of building business and that online visibility?
Yeah, so tools, it depends on what the business is. Do you need a lot of tools? It really does depend. When
Mhm.
you're doing sales, you need a good CRM. I use Sales Navigator
Mhm.
to create lead list, and when I work LinkedIn, that's my tool on LinkedIn. But when it comes to, yeah, actually growing your business, it will depend on what you're actually doing and what you're trying to accomplish. If
Mhm.
you're a coach or consultant, then you can use a coaching platform, something that allows you to communicate with your clients in the platform and keeps everything nicely packaged in one place. But you can also use, free things like Google. And but in regards to tools, I think tools come as you grow.
Mhm.
So just don't get stuck on the tools. That's another area where people will sell you on stuff, and before you know it, you have more tools than you have business. So just be careful with that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm really appreciative of that. And also some of the tools, you don't really need to buy them. As you say, you can use the free subscription as you talked
Mhm.
about. But one thing I want our nurses to understand is that, everything that you actually need, and I saw this being posted on LinkedIn, that everything that you need to start a business is right before you. It's right
Mhm.
before you got trained, you have your education, those skills are there. Whether you love to talk, whether you like to be on
Mhm.
social media, but as what Claudia says, find a program, find something to offer with the passion that you're doing. And I know being on social media and running a business, and when you launched your business, probably you took a risk and it worked for you. We also have to look at what if. What if it doesn't work? What
Mhm.
advice would you give to nurses or anybody that is thinking about that? What if I do a business and it doesn't work?
Yeah, so this is really good. So this morning I had a devotional and it was about purpose and plans. So this is perfect. Your purpose will always remain the same. So whatever that purpose that's within you, it'll never change. But your plans may change and that's totally okay.
Mhm.
Because we have to go through a process of testing and trying in order to get to the right place. And there really isn't any skipping that. You could hire a coach and you can hire a mentor and they're going to help you get there a little bit faster, but
Mhm.
you're still going to make your own mistakes that teach you, and you're going to get your own uh you're going to figure out your own strategy that's very personalized to you. But we can't get there if we don't try and if we
Right.
don't do. So yeah, you can start a business and it can fail. There is, in fact, most businesses fail within the first 5 years. So when I got to my 10-year anniversary, I like had a party because I was like, I'm still alive. Lots of ups and downs, but I made it, right? So sure, that's okay, because when we fail, we learn. And guess what? So I opened up a coffee shop and I knew nothing about coffee. But I had it in me that I wanted to have a cute little coffee shop. And and so when I went in there, what happened to me was I literally put myself through business school with 2 years of owning a coffee shop. So
Wow.
when I left there, man, now I consult organizations on how to scale their businesses. I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not failed at coffee. So
Right.
now I can look at your business and tell you exactly what you're missing in order to get to your goals and in order for you to get to that next stage. But again, had I not failed, maybe I wouldn't be the expert that I am today. So, yay to failing, and never feel bad. Just get back up and keep on going.
Thank you so much. Anybody that is in the chat, if you have any questions for Claudia or healthcare business strategist and also marketing guru, let her know. And also, if there's any one of our nurses listening and they want to reach out to you for either mentorship or coaching, where they can find you.
Yeah, they can go to my website, claudiagarcia.net.
All right. And you're also on LinkedIn if they want to follow you there.
Yes, I'm also on LinkedIn. I think we can drop that in the comments so that they can have the. We could do it after too, or now. Do you
Oh,
have mine, or do you want me to send it to you? Yeah, I mean, we could just drop it afterwards so they can have it.
I can drop it right
Oh,
now.
you could drop it. Okay, cool. I can't see where the messages are.
So it's Claudia Garcia.
My LinkedIn is. I
I
think
think
it's
I
in
have to
front of
drop
me.
it after.
Yeah, drop it
Yeah.
after. Okay, no,
Yes.
that's okay. That's okay. But claudiagarcia.net is my website, and you could also find my
Mhm.
LinkedIn on there. There's an icon. Click right through it.
Right. And there's something that I want to leave with anybody that is here and persons that will be listening, that, you talked about purpose and you found your vision, that no matter what business that you're looking for, you have to pull something from inside of you. You have to take that leap of faith, determine if this is what you want. As what you said, you can see thousands of persons out there doing tons of things. And if it's not within you, sometimes it won't work. So that passion and purpose will come from you. And I do believe that our nurses, anybody else in any profession, we have what it takes to become business owners. Sometimes it takes you, as you said, knowing nothing about coffee and then just going out there and starting a coffee shop. And that's
Yeah.
how we'll get freedom, as you talked about, and the ability to just be your own boss.
Yeah.
And this is a series I think I like to continue, just to educate and empower our nurses out there, because we do have it within us. And I'm so happy for you coming on here and talking to us about, the different strategies that we can utilize and how nurses can actually become bosses.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, let me know. And I
Yeah.
hope this encouraged you, this time together encouraged you and to go
Yes.
after your dreams and yeah, dare to fail. Hey. Let's get it out of the way so that we can succeed, right? So,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. If anyone has any questions, you can drop it in the chat before Claudia goes. Any questions, please give it to her. She's a healthier business strategist. Or
Yeah.
marketing, what you want to know. If you're interested to start a business, you can let her know or visit her website for mentorship and coaching, as you spoke about. We'll definitely keep in touch. I'm not seeing anyone typing or having any questions, but we'll listen as they go along. If they have any questions, also, I can forward them to you, Claudia.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Thank you
right.
so much. Well, have a wonderful day. I'm so excited. I hope we can do a part 2.
Yes,
There's
I
so
think we
much
need
to
a
talk
part
about.
two. Yeah, and
Yes,
we
let's
need
do
a
it.
series.
Yeah, let's
All
do a
right.
whole series. I will show up with you. Hey, we could do it every, what is it, Thursday? We could do
Thursday.
it every Thursday for a whole month.
Yes, that would be good.
Let's do it.
All right. So thank
Okay.
you so much. Have a
Talk
good
to you later.
day.
Thank you. Have a
Bye.
good one. Bye.